And just allow yourself to fully and deeply and completely arrive here in this moment. Allow your awareness to be fully here right now. Fully here in each breath. Just allow that awareness to draw inward. Allow that awareness to anchor itself in your breath. Don't try to change the breath. Just let the awareness anchor itself there. Pulling itself away from, unhooking it from all of the constant stimuli in the world around you. So we're not pushing anything away. We're simply consciously, deliberately withdrawing the attention and awareness from all of that constant motion and bringing it back into that which is still. And as you exhale, just allow yourself to let go. Let go of the way that you think of yourself, the stories you tell, the narratives you use, the identifications you wear. What would happen if you could just exhale and let go? All of those misconceptions about what's wrong, what's right, what's not enough, what is needed. Just allow yourself to exhale and let go of these stories. And allow yourself to just sink deeply into the very core of your being. And as you inhale, allow yourself to take in, to breathe in this sacred energy, this sacred prana of this holy place. Feel yourself breathing it in as that energy of truth and awakening fills your being. So on the exhalations, we're exhaling and letting go of that which is old and false and doesn't work, that which is constricting. Just exhale and let it go. And on the inhalations, we're taking in this sacred prana, sacred energy, blessed energy. Allowing that to just flow into you, touching you and opening you. You can add a gentle mantra to this. You can add the mantra of so hum. It means I am that. I am one with the Creator and one with the creation. I am all that there is. So hum. So on the inhalations, as you're inhaling, taking in this sacred energy, just allow yourself silently to chant to yourself. So just silently and gently on the inhalation. And on the exhalations, hum. Silently to yourself. So on the inhalation, hum on the exhalations. As we breathe in that sacred prana, that sacred energy, and as we exhale and let go of that which is untrue. Slowly and gently, bring the palms of your hands together at chest level in Namaste. And just gently rub the palms of your hands against each other. Press the palms of your hands against your closed eyes. Slowly and gently lower the hands and open the eyes. Welcome to Satsang. Happy first day of the new year. And so beautiful to have you all here celebrating with us. What suggestions do you have for bringing harmony into the workplace? So we start, as always, with one of the questions that's come in advance from our family all over the world, and then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. So, harmony in the workplace. It's really the same answers as harmony in the home, harmony in the community. In a way, it's easier than the home because you don't actually have to live with people. You don't actually have to be as engaged and close as you are in the home. In the home, if you just came in and did your work, you did the dishes, you made food, you did what you had to do, and then you left, your loved ones would be very hurt. Like, why don't you pay any attention to me? Why don't you want to just be with me? Don't keep doing things, just be with me. Right? But in the workplace, nobody's going to say that. They're not going to say, oh my God, he's so annoying. He just like comes in and does his work and then leaves. It's a workplace. So in a way, it's easier. It's easier to bring harmony in the workplace than in the home. But in some ways, it's more difficult because in the home, at least, we've chosen to be together in most cases. Either we're family of origin, so we've been connected by blood, at which point we understand there's some powerful destiny karma that has brought us together and that we're connected for life. So we obviously are going to try and make it work. Or we've made a choice to be together. We've actually gotten married and are being together. So again, we want to make it work. So there does tend to be more motivation to bring harmony in the home than the workplace. And of course, in the home, there isn't the competition. The dilemma in the workplace is competition, typically. One available raise, one available promotion, one available head of the team. But on a deep level, the ways of bringing harmony are really the same everywhere, which is number one, consciously, deliberately choose peace. Most of us choose being right over choosing peace. So you're having a disagreement with someone, whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member, a loved one, whether it's a colleague, whether it's somebody on a train or a bus or an airplane. And you get into kind of a little, no, I'm right, they think they're right, I think I'm right, they think they're right. And we're going back and forth. And at some point, one of two things happens. It almost never happens that one person convinces the other. Sadly, we waste lots of energy trying to convince somebody, whereas actually, that almost never happens. You almost never hear somebody say, wow, yeah, I guess you're right. I'm totally going to change how I think about that. Every once in a while it does, if somebody's really open and humble and inquisitive and wanting to learn. But almost always, one of two things happens. Either you get in a fight, or at least one person decides, you know what, it's not worth it. Okay, fine, whatever you say. Now, in the workplace, we get into these same things. But we're much less likely to choose peace than we are in other situations. And we need to. Because we need to realize that even in a workplace, it's much more important to be in peace than to be right. Because what we know, even in actual production, actual efficiency and effectiveness and creativity, when you fight, your vision contracts. That which we need to be creative, to be innovative, to be productive in a meaningful way, we have to have an open heart and an open mind. If we're like, oh God, I hate that person, we're contracting our own minds, which means that we are hindering our own ability to be really productive. I mean, if all you are is like a factory line worker or kind of inputting data, then okay, your emotional state probably doesn't have too much to do with it. But if you've got a job that has anything to do with creativity, with flow, with being innovative, with being connected, with being there, with, being on a wavelength together with, whether it's with your team members, whether it's with your boss, whoever it's with, you've got to be in a position of being open. And if you're angry, or you're in this competition, or you're frustrated and fed up, it's going to contract that. So, obviously you want to be as humble as you can, in the same way that we are in the home. And yet, given that in a workplace, on at least this superficial material level, the goal is work, there's a reason it's the workplace. There's a reason you've been hired, there's a reason you're being paid money to do it. So ultimately on this material level, there is that agenda of doing good work. If there is someone or a group of people who are really preventing that from happening, whether it's due to their personalities, whether it's due to the way they work, what they think is right, etc., it's important to let someone higher up know. It's not about telling on them. It's about saying, hey, you're my boss. I assume that your ultimate agenda, aside from hoping that we get along, is ultimately that we produce, that we do whatever it is that you've hired us to do. Therefore, let me share with you what it is that is preventing us from doing that. But try to whatever extent possible, from a spiritual level. Every minute of our day is a possibility to be on our spiritual path. This is a core teaching. And it's a great teaching for the first day of the new year, is your spiritual path is not just that which you do with your eyes closed, sitting, in your room for 10 minutes or 4 hours or anywhere in between every day. It's not that which requires you to be in, a lotus position. And it's that which you carry with you in the world. And so whether you're interacting with family members, whether you're interacting with a cashier who's checking you out, or someone who's pumping your gas, or a coworker, an employee, an employer, whoever it may be, ultimately the goal is to bring your spiritual practice into that moment. To know that in that moment, although you have a role, you are soul. That was a cute rhyme. I hit unintentional, but it works. That, yeah, we have a role, but we are the soul. And not to get caught up too much in the role. Yeah, we have to do the best we can. Be sincere. Give it our fullest, our completest. Don't do anything half-heartedly. I always say if you're going to do it half-heartedly, it's better not to do it at all. There's a beautiful, beautiful teaching in a poem by Khalil Gibran on work, in which he basically says, if you cannot work with love, with gratitude, with full sincerity and full humility in the gratitude of being able to be part of the functioning of this universe, it's better that you don't work. If you can't do it with your full heart and your full sincerity, sit outside the gates of the temple with open arms and beg for food. That it's better to be a beggar than it is to be someone who's doing their work half-heartedly. So you do it fully, but you also simultaneously do it recognizing that you are soul playing this role. And that the other people, including the ones who are being really annoying or who seem to be blocking what you want to do or whatever it may be, they are also soul. So even though on a level of role meets role, I might say, hey, I really need you to stop doing that, or I really need you to work in a different way, or I really need you to, whatever it may be. On a level of soul, even while you're having this logistic, pragmatic workplace conversation to make things more efficient and effective, at the same time, you, from the position of soul, are recognizing them as soul. So you're not denying who they are. You're not forgetting who you are or who they are in this beautiful moment. But you're just stepping fully into your role of, I am the leader of this team, or I am the boss, or I am this, or I am that, and you're playing it fully. But you're remembering all the time who you are. It's like that beautiful teaching from the Bhagavad Gita that says, Mam nu smard yudhyacha. Very simple. Great mantra if you're looking for more things to start your new year off with. Mam nu smard yudhyacha. Very simple. 2 lines. Simply means, remember me and fight the war. That's it. Remember God, do your duty. That's it. Remember God, so you don't get stuck in the duty. You don't forget who you are. You don't think you're the role. You always remember God. And you fight the war to the best, the fullest, the completest, the most that you can. But you remember God the whole time. And it's this yes and aspect. And this, of course, is true not only in the workplace. It's true in the home. It's true in the community. It's true wherever you are. Are you at a grocery store where somebody's, handed you change for a 5 rupee bill, whereas actually you gave them a 500 rupee bill? And they're denying it. They're saying, no, you only gave them 5 rupees, and you're having a serious conversation because the other 495 rupees are important. And so you're not going to just let it go. You're going to have a conversation. You're going to do whatever you need to explain that you are correct. But you're also going to remember there is no place I end and this cashier begins. We are not separate, we are one. As I am playing the role of the one who was cheated, accidentally or on purpose, knowingly or unknowingly, so she is playing the role of one who has made the mistake or doing the cheating, however the case may be. But each of our souls has agreed on some cosmic level to play these roles. So I'm going to play my part, just like she's playing her part. But I'm also not going to forget who I am and who she is. And that's the way that we do it. That's how you keep harmony. It may not necessarily prevent or solve the actual conflict that other people have, because none of us is the spiritual police or the karmic police. We cannot make other people think in certain ways or understand certain things. But it will most definitely bring harmony in your mind, in your heart, in your being. And that's the only place we can start. We can't bring harmony to others till we bring it to ourselves. So first we bring it to ourselves. And then, hopefully by God's grace, as we are in harmony, we exude that energy of harmony. And suddenly there's nothing left in us to fight with. You know, the way that I always love to explain this is if there's a rope, and you and I are each holding opposite ends of the rope, and there is what you would call tension in the rope. Literally, we are each pulling opposite ends of the rope. It only requires one of us to let go for 100% of the tension in the rope to disappear. You don't actually need both people to let go. You just need one. So as you recognize who you are, even though the other person might not intellectually agree with what you've said or done, if you've karmically let go of your end of the tension in that rope, they're not going to have really anything left to hold on to in tension. And so it tends to bring a peace that spreads. And it certainly spreads within you and then to others. Beautiful. Other questions? Yes.
Hi again. After when you're traveling 2 months in India, 4 days here, I start to understand that that thing that I am looking for is not outside, it's inside. What can you recommend to this foreigner that come to India because the flight was cheap, that come to this city because some people recommended, that come to this ashram because I was looking for ATM, and to understand science, to control fears, because I don't know nothing about nothing, tradition, ideas, religion, nothing. I use, say, for example, this morning in the Ganga, why not? I'm here, I'm going to do it. But what can you recommend me?
Sure, great. So, interestingly, I came here very much like you. I also knew nothing. You came to India because it was cheap. I came because I was a strict vegetarian and knew that I could eat happily. Different, but very similar. Meaning neither of them was drawn by something that you knew you were going to get, something that you were looking for on a soul level. You ended up in Rishikesh just like that. I opened a 500-page guidebook in Delhi, it said Rishikesh. I said, okay. Similarly, just like that. It's close. We can get there easily from Delhi. Sounds nice, rivers, mountains. So from my own experience, what I can tell you is the best recommendation I can give you is to be still, to be quiet, and to listen to the signs and the signals that you're going to get. The dilemma these days, it's nice, it's certainly nice to be able to go onto Google and have 200 different websites to choose from that are going to tell you where to go in India, and another many, many, many dozens of them, maybe more, telling you what to do in Rishikesh. The dilemma with that, I mean, it's great on one hand. The dilemma is that life becomes a checklist. Things to do in Rishikesh. Things to make sure before you leave Rishikesh you do. And again, it's great, it's nice to have other people who have explored things say, oh, there's this great waterfall, or hey, that restaurant, or don't eat there. The dilemma is that then everything becomes just a checklist. And it's all mental and intellectual, and we've cut ourselves off from the way of knowing. Imagine that a caterpillar is crawling on the ground, and it gets to chatting with a millipede and an earthworm. Okay, so the three of them are chatting. Caterpillar, millipede, earthworm. They basically look relatively similar. Some differences, of course, but they're both kind of long and cylindrical, and they crawl on the ground or slither on the ground. And the caterpillar says to the millipede and the earthworm, so, what am I supposed to do? And they say, just keep crawling around. And the caterpillar says, well, sometimes I get this thing that says, climb the tree. And they say, oh, no, stay away from the trees. You'll fall. So the caterpillar says, oh, all right, thanks so much. Maybe the millipede says, yeah, one time I tried to climb the tree, and oh my God, it was a disaster, and this happened and that happened. I'm so glad I made it back down to the ground. So the caterpillar says, thank you so much. Don't know what I would have done without your recommendation. Now, of course, what ends up happening is that caterpillar misses the call to become a butterfly, because it's been listening to the earthworm and the millipede tell it about not going up into the tree. Now, the earthworm and the millipede aren't meant to be in the tree. They don't become they don't become butterflies. But the caterpillar does. And if it becomes so intellectual, you could say, by taking its advice from those other crawly creatures around it, it's going to miss the call for its own life. And so the dilemma with a lot of this, oh, hey, what'd you do in Rishikesh? Oh, hey, is you absolutely may find the best restaurants to eat at, and the best to go on, and the best river rafting company, music, and the best this and the best that. But I promise you, without even really knowing you on any personal level other than just having you in satsang, I promise that is not all you've come for. I feel very blessed in a way that when I came here 27 years ago, there wasn't all of that. There was just a simple guidebook, and it gave, the names of a couple of restaurants and places to stay, but that was sort of it. Listen to your heart. You've come this far. You're in exactly the right place. India, and especially spiritual India, is not a place that you come to know by running around and checking things off of to-do lists. It's a place you come to know through yourself. Only by opening yourself to it. Sit on the banks of Ganga, open your heart, and follow the signs. You'll get them. You're sitting here now. Somehow you got here. Just follow the signs. Don't make lists. Each day, just listen. You got in Ganga. You're hearing the signs. The only strong recommendation without any reservations that I could give you is sit on Ganga every day. Have a bath in Ganga every day, assuming you can swim and you're safe about it. Those would be the only, most definitely do this. And the rest, just let it happen. But don't make yourself so busy that happening doesn't happen. It's not like, I got to be a Lakshman Jula by 2, and then, I got to be here by 1, and then, Otherwise, this just becomes another work. Allow it to happen for you. Beautiful. Yeah. Sure. Okay.
Sadhviji, namaskar. Do you think the desire is the root cause of unhappiness? If yes, how can we understand the desire?
Great. Desire itself is not the root cause of unhappiness. The idea that we are somehow entitled to have our desires fulfilled is the root cause of unhappiness. If let's say my birthday falls in August, okay? It doesn't, it falls in March, but for the sake of this, let's say it falls in August. And I live in India where we have summer monsoons. I very well might desire that it doesn't rain on my birthday because I want to plan a picnic with my friends. But I certainly don't feel entitled for it not to rain because it rains 98% of the days in August. So it would be foolish for me to be attached to the idea that somehow it's not going to rain on my birthday in August. So I can have a desire. Hey, maybe it won't rain tomorrow. But I would be foolish to expect that and therefore to be depressed when it does rain. The dilemma with life is not only do we have desires, but we have a sense inside that I somehow am entitled to having that desire come bear fruit. And so when it doesn't, I become very upset and frustrated and angry and depressed. And that's the problem. Desire is just an energy. It's an energy with direction, rather. So a desire for breakfast gets me out of bed, or a desire for a shower, or a desire to go to the bathroom, right? I mean, what is it that drags you out of bed in the morning? Want a shower, I have to pee, I'm hungry, I got to get to work, right? I mean, some level of desire is what pulls you out of bed. It's a good thing. If we didn't have any desire, we might never get out of bed. A desire to know the truth of myself, to go deeper on my spiritual path, leads me to meditate, leads me to get up earlier. It leads me not to get on to social media or email or WhatsApp first thing in the morning and do my spiritual practice. It's a good thing. A desire to stay healthy in your body leads you to eat well and exercise and get enough sleep and stay hydrated. Desire is just an energy. It's good. If you didn't have that desire, hard to motivate you to do much of anything. The problem is when I have this assumption that I'm going to get it. So for example, I have a desire to have a shower. I get out of bed. I turn on the tap. There's no water. Oh my God, somehow our water's been cut off. Okay, it happens sometimes. But do I lose myself? Do I freak out? Do I scream and yell? Do I call the building superintendent and bawl him out at 5 in the morning? Or do I understand that it's going to come back on at some point? Clearly, something's going on with the pipes. Clearly, someone who knows something about it is going to fix it, or at a reasonable hour, I'll call the superintendent. But you don't lose yourself. A desire for spiritual depth and growth propels me on a spiritual path. But if I've been meditating and I'm not enlightened yet, to be furious at God, to be furious at my guru, to be furious at myself, and I hate this thing, forget it, I'm never going to meditate again, this stuff sucks, this is the worst. What have you achieved? You've just made yourself miserable. So desire is an energy. But that attachment to getting that which I desire, that is the problem. And then yes, on a much, much deeper level, eventually the goal becomes to become totally desireless. But it's not apathetic, it's not indifference, it's not peace, war, either way, no problem. It's not that. It's an awareness that my grounding, my anchoring, my sense of self is not dependent upon that which I want happening. And so that makes us eventually desireless. Realize, whatever is in God's plan is what's going to happen. And my only desire at that point becomes to align myself with God's plan. Whatever the plan is, let me be aligned with it. Let me be an instrument in bringing light and peace and love in whatever your plan may be. It's like somebody was talking to Puja Swamiji at some point about heaven and hell and, I know what it was. So he built in America this incredible, exquisite Hindu Jain temple that was the very first Hindu Jain temple in the world. Worship together, where Shwetambar and Digambar both worship. First ever. But it's also a Sarveshwar Mandir. So not only is it Shwetambar and Digambar, but it's Lakshmi Narayan, it's Shiv Parivar, it's Ram Parivar, it's Radha Krishna, there's the Havan Kund, there's the whole, it's everything. And one time when Puja Swamiji was back in India, this other Hindu religious leader had gone visiting Pittsburgh and had gone to see the temple and stood there and said, this is very wrong. Very wrong. You cannot have all of these different energies together. This is very wrong. Whoever created this temple is going to go to hell. And so the temple committee told Puja Swamiji, by the way, this person came and said that, and aren't you worried? And he said, of course I'm not worried. He said, if I go to hell, I'll just build the Hindu Jain temple there as well. So it's a matter of whatever is in God's will is going to happen, and my only desire becomes to be an instrument of peace, of love, of goodness, of sharing in alignment with whatever God's will might be. But along the way, in the meantime, first step, as you let go of the attachment to getting your desire fulfilled. You let go of the sense of entitlement to getting it your way. And that'll take you a huge, huge step along the way to that freedom. Great. Last question. Yeah.
Actually, I have two questions. Jai Shri Krishna to all. Happy New Year. Since you have been guiding us for the letting go, could you give us one more tip here? The whole day schedule from the morning you get up to the bed, you go to the bed, how your day, you spend your day to get, or how have you been spending your day to get to the level where you are? And how would you suggest us to have our day, at least we want to learn from that one in case, so
Sure.
since we are learning other things, then it will be more, it's not a checklist, please, but that's not what I meant, but basically a kind of a structuring our day, like morning you do this, before going to bed you do this, so you have a peaceful night and things like
Beautiful,
that.
yeah.
So that's the one question I have. The second question is that we talked about connecting ourselves and going with the flow, and but according to Bhagavad Gita, life is cause and effect, and all divine. It's some destiny. Like you came here, of course you listened to your heart and you stayed here, but there is also, if you look at from Bhagavad Gita and Shastra, there is a destiny which you might have that destiny here. And your destiny brought you here. And you are paying attention and you are going with the flow. So the destiny and where the messages come from the divinity and our inner being, but sometimes it comes from the mind and one gets confused whether it is my ego is speaking to me or is my divinity speaking to me. And it's a very fine line.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
It is.
and that's where sometimes confusion comes.
Great.
So those are the two questions I have. Jai Shri
Okay.
Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna. Okay. So as far as the daily schedule, I think what's most important is I begin and I end my days in very, very similar ways, which are in sadhana. Now, sadhana's spiritual practice. I have my days essentially bookended with that seated, eyes closed, what you envision when you think about spiritual practice, sitting in meditation. I do pranayam, I do japa, which is the recitation of a mantra or the recitation of a name of God. I do meditation. I do that every morning. I do the japa and the meditation in the night before I sleep. I have a very robust gratitude practice that I actually begin my day with. Like before anything, lying in bed, I start my gratitude practice. Just ultimately, I want it to be something that even begins while I'm still asleep, and that I sort of wake up being thankful, but I'm still working on that. So I try to get it going as soon as I even realize, I'm awake, before any other thought comes in mind. Just thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And aside from those bookends, I spend the day in seva, in service, asking God in every moment, how can I be an instrument? How can I be a vehicle, a vessel, a channel of your flow? And it is really about getting into alignment. And yes, of course, you make plans. You use your brain, you use your creativity, you use your initiative, you use your opportunity and your resources and your talents and all of that. And you stay open. Because sometimes you discover all your plans and talents and abilities are on one side and God's very clear will is on the other side. And there are moments where you just have to realize, okay, I guess we're going this way. And it's not about giving up. It's about simply recognizing, all right, I guess the flow of the river is that way for now. Okay. But for me, it's all about seva. It's all about service and a whole variety of different ways. Whether it's the actual programs and projects that we run for children, for girls, for women, for the environment. Whether it's being a channel for spiritual inspiration, spiritual wisdom, whatever it may be. My prayer and my question is always just empty me out so that I can be a clearer channel. Like just remove from me any misconceptions, preconceptions, ideas, attachments that I might have that would block me from really being this clear channel for your flow. So that's what my day looks like. And again, it takes a whole variety of different forms depending on what God wants from me in that day. But for me, the intention is just service and just seva. And to remember as much as I can throughout the day that truth of who I am. And as I encourage everybody to set reminders, because we forget. For me, before eating, before drinking. And it's a moment. Before eating, I have special prayers I say, but even just before drinking or just before, even just like, a cashew or not, just even you're just going to have a couple of cashews, even before anything. Just a moment. It's just a moment of dropping in. Oh, yeah. Here we are. Thank you. Just that. Just coming back for a moment. Oh, yeah. And sometimes it's even imperceptible. It's just, you're there. Sometimes, depending on what you're in the middle of, it takes a little bit more of a conscientious moment. But for me, that's my way of remembering. But whatever works for everybody, but just as many times during the day as you can create a system that will remind you. Notifications, a beep every 15 minutes on your phone, or before you hit send on an email, or whatever it may be. But a way of remembering. And then this question of cause and effect versus God's will. The Bhagavad Gita is such an extraordinary scripture because whichever way you want to get into the river of divinity, it offers you a path. And so, yes, it speaks vehemently and in great volume about karma and doing our duty, fulfilling our dharma, that which we do, we get the fruits of it. And simultaneously, when Arjuna says, I'm not going to fight this war, forget it. I don't want the karmic fruits of it. You can't make me kill people. Like here you are telling me to fight this war, but I don't want to do it. Whatever the reason, I don't want to kill people. I don't want the karmic repercussions of killing people. And Bhagavan Krishna comes in and essentially says, oh really? Oh really? And since when did you become the one who decides who lives and who dies? Really? That's up to you? You're the doer? You're the one who's going to take life? Really? And he dispels that whole illusion that Arjuna has of being the doer. So yes, there's cause and effect, and unequivocally, undeniably, in dozens of different ways throughout 700 verses, Bhagavan Krishna says, I am the doer, you are the instrument through which I do. Surrender yourself to me. Yat karoshi yadashnasi, yajjahoshi dadasiyat, yat tapasyasi konteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Just offer it. Even the good stuff. Even the things that you're doing right, your sadhana, your tapas, your yagna, just give it to me. You're not even doing that. You're just an instrument. Just surrender it all to me. So, it's yes and. Yes, we plan. Yes, we do our sadhana so that, aside from enlightenment and truth, so that at least our intellect is purified. So our mind is purified so we can know the right thing to do. So we can know our dharma. Absolutely, yes. Yes, we must use all of our skills and abilities and time every minute, every moment in acting, in engaging in karma. Right karma, right action. And we recognize that at the end of the day, ultimately, it's about just being an instrument in God's hands. And the most important thing about an instrument is that it's connected. You know, if you look at any of these things we're using, the lights, the mic, the cameras, all of it, it's only as useful as it is plugged in. We could have a great camera, great mics, great lights, but if they're not plugged into the electricity source, they're not going to be of any benefit. And so we are those instruments, but we have to make sure we're plugged in to the source, connected to the divine. And that's the part about being in alignment. It's not about becoming lazy. It's not about saying, oh, well, you know. So that ego versus divine voice that you spoke about, it's a very subtle question. It's a very important question. And the only way to really answer it is to spend enough time meditating so that that voice, that inner divine voice, becomes a voice you're familiar with. It's like you've got 3 kids. When they were babies, crying, a brand new babysitter probably could not tell you who it was that was crying upstairs. But you knew. You would know. Oh, that's Monica. Oh, that's Mindy. No. Babysitter wouldn't recognize it. Because she's not that familiar with these 3 beings and their different voices. But as their mother, you know. Even though cries sound very similar. You would know from anywhere in the house, oh, that's Monica crying. Oh, that's Minty crying. Oh, that's Ahmed crying. You would know. Because you are connected to them. You know that voice. You recognize that voice, even if they're just crying. And that's the only way to do it, is you've got to get connected and familiar enough with that inner divine voice so that later when it's the ego's voice or the voice of fear or the voice of conditioning, you're able to say, not my divine voice. I recognize that one. That's ego. And it's only with practice. Through practice you become familiar. And then you'll be able to tell the difference. Great question. Wonderful. Wonderful. So this is going to be our last satsang for the next few weeks. I'm going to be traveling for the next few weeks. I'll be back most likely sometime toward the last week of January. But our wonderful Seva team will keep you posted online on social media and here with some signs up in the reception as soon as we know when we're going to start again. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful next few weeks. Hope to be able to see many of you still here when I get back and that you've stayed on the banks of Mother Ganga. And so much love.